Paladin's Quest is a game that I have tried so many times to get into. I've attempted to play this game probably dozens of times over the last couple of decades, which is a sentence I probably never thought I would say. It was one of the many games that I downloaded in order to play on an emulator back in the 90s. I wanted to try to find more games on the Super Nintendo because I didn't own one at the time, and this was really the only way that I had to play a lot of these, unless I went over to a friend's house, and that wasn't always an option. Paladin's Quest has everything that I would want from an RPG. It looks different from most of the RPGs on the Super Nintendo. It has a unique take on magic, which is the nicest thing I can say about it. Paladin's Quest is just one of those games that I feel like I should enjoy, but the more I played it, the more frustrated I was getting with it, and the more annoying it got. And it had nothing to do with the story, nothing to do with the graphics. It was all about the gameplay. On an interesting note, you don't play as a paladin in this game. As far as I can tell, there are no paladins in here. They don't exist in this game's world, making the title just a little bit confusing. I'm not sure any of the characters in this would be considered paladins. I don't know why they decided to name the game Paladin's Quest instead of just leaving it as Linus or Linus, whatever you want to pronounce it as. That was the Japanese title. I don't know why they changed it. It just one of the many mysteries of American localization, I guess. The story starts with our main character screwing everything up, which makes sense. He's only 13 years old, so yeah, apparently there's no adult supervision in here. At some point, I might want to look at all the games where there are no adults stepping in to stop kids from messing everything up and almost destroying the world, but that's something for another time. Anyway, you begin by being bullied by a bunch of nameless kids at magic school. They dare you to climb up this weird tower that they have, and you end up going up there with this kid named Duke. You enter the tower and release an evil machine called Dahlgren. And then the magic school gets destroyed, and then Dahlgren goes around just wreaking havoc on the planet. You don't see any of this because the cutscenes aren't all that great, and it also isn't all that important. In a very video game moment, the schoolmaster decides that your character, who again is only 13 years old, has to set everything right. And he's not going to actually go and help you because, I don't know, he's a dick. I have no idea why he doesn't feel like helping you. He doesn't even give you advice or point you in the right direction. He just tells you to leave and hurry up. Like, just, what the hell, man? Anyway, you have to find someone named Daphne at first. This person kind of explains what you need to do. You end up getting a few other people along the way. Most of them are mercenaries. You only have 2 permanent characters in your party. That's Chizeni and Melinda, I believe her name is. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me I'm wrong in the comments. I kind of stopped caring at some point when I was going through this. Anyway, you have to find 3 items: the Sword of Cormu, the Helm of Cormu, and the Armor of Cormu. These are apparently the only things that are going to be able to defeat Dahlgren, and also the new thing called Neugren, because this evil person named Zygos wants to create another evil machine to take over the world by using the evil from Dahlgren. Shit gets confusing. Basically, you need to stop all the bad guys and move on with your life. You then end up traveling through time because this whole thing is a massive time loop. You're the reincarnation of one of the aliens. Apparently, Melinda's also an incarnation of another alien because you're on a moon of another planet. Yeah, things get really confusing and a little stupid in this. Anyway, all of this stuff has been set in motion because of actions that you, as your character, have taken. And you need to repeat all of that so that you can end up defeating the big bad guy, which has always been Zygos, who is probably a reincarnation of someone else. It really got convoluted and stupid near the end. I'm sorry if I'm skipping over a lot of other things. Anyway, you beat them because you defeat him, and then you have to fight another boss, and yeah, and then you win. I don't get it. The story is fine for what it is. It just gets really, really confusing. And it's one of those things that makes me wonder if the Japanese version of this is just a more coherent story than the English one that we got, given how just absolutely annoyed I am by a lot of the things that the localization team did. It is kind of funny when I was playing through this and just seeing how incredibly disinterested all of the adults are in this. None of them are really motivated to help you, or at least the majority of them are not motivated to help you, outside of just telling you what you need to do. Occasionally, when you remember to wander into a bar, again, you're 13 and you're just wandering into bars, the mercenaries will help you, so that's kind of fun. And it might be kind of cool to go through and find all the mercenaries in this, but they don't really add a whole lot to the story. I really want to talk about something positive here. I love the graphics. They look really nice. In some ways, this sort of reminds me of the first Phantasy Star, just because you're in this very colorful game until you go back in time and everything's black and white. And it has this really cool pastel color scheme. The trees look kind of crazy. It just looks like you're on an alien world, which is what you're supposed to be. At times, it looks a little bit like a Dr. Seuss book. It's really cool at moments. There is one minor issue with the graphics that I just find a little bit annoying, and that's when you open one up, you see you can see something is inside of it. Your character gets it, but then it doesn't stay opened up. So if you forget what treasure chest you've opened, you might end up opening the same empty chest a couple of times. That's a really minor thing, but it was something I found a little odd, and it would have been nice if they had just left the chests open for you so you knew, hey, I've already been here. The enemies look really good. They're very unique for a game like this. There are kind of the standard palette swaps for enemies, which makes a whole lot of sense, just because they don't want to have to, create a whole bunch of new ones. They can just have the more powerful ones with a different palette. There are little animations for when the enemies attack, and those are pretty cool. Your animations are pretty non-existent because you're looking at these battles basically like one of the Dragon Quest games where you don't really see what's happening. You do get the spell animations, which most of the time look great. Sometimes they're not as good, but it's pretty much what you should expect. The cutscenes, for the most part, look pretty good. I wish there were more of them. They use the in-game graphics. They look really nice. At least I like them. And for 1992, they're pretty great. Some are excellent. Some are kind of standard. It isn't anything that's really going to blow you away. They don't have anything that's just really amazing. And it seems like they taper off the farther you get into it. I was expecting something more at the end, but that's just what it is. I wish it was better, but it's just okay. So the user interface for this is absolutely horrible. The magic system is really bad. Just the way you fight is mind-numbingly difficult. It should not be this hard. This is the only thing that I generally just disliked about the entire game. When you go into battle, you have to basically pick what weapon you want, pick what spell you want, that sort of thing. That's all standard. But if you want to heal, you're just fucked. There are almost no healing spells. I think when I looked up information on this, there was one healing spell in the entire game. I didn't even bother with it because I'm just assuming it's as pathetic as most of the magic that you get. So most of what you're doing is using items. However, and there's a big frickin' however, you can't use items from your bag. The items have to be equipped to your belt. Fair enough, but just why? Why does it have to be like that? Why can't I see all of the items that I have? Why do I have to go to my belt to do this? Ugh. When I first started, I had no idea how to actually get down to where the healing item was that I had equipped to myself. When you select weapon, you have to press down, but if you press down too far, you select an attack with your boots. I don't know why this is possible, but it is. You can also attack with your helmet for some godforsaken reason. Why these were even options in the game, I have no idea. Why the whole stupid attack thing is set up like this is beyond dumb. I just really hate the user interface. And then the magic. Just the whole stupid magic system. So this uses a progression system much like Final Fantasy II, where your magic gets stronger depending on how often you use it. It sucks. I hate this stupid progression system. It's really dumb. I don't know why it's in the game. I don't want it to be here, but it is. It's just really freaking frustrating because you have, I believe, 7 different magic types that you can use. You won't know what spell is aligned to what magic unless you go and check before the battle, and then you have to remember, okay, this spell is Earth and Sphere. Because it can't be simple. It has to be fucking stupid. It's really goddamn annoying. All of your magic works this way. So if you have a spell that is supposed to be strong against, like, a robot, but you haven't really been using it, it's not going to do any frickin' damage. So you have to keep leveling it up and wasting your time with it. It's a horrible system. I hate it so goddamn much. And it's your primary attack because your physical attacks at some point are worthless. Because your weapons are largely worthless. You're being pushed into using magic, which, by the way, hurts you. You have no magic points in this game. All of your attacks, all of your magical attacks use health points because there's no pool of magic points for you to draw from. It's just mind-numbingly stupid, and I really freaking hate it. Now, let's just talk about the enemies really quick, because that's a whole nother level of frustration. I talked a little bit about the magic already, but it's really, really frustrating at times. It's also kind of confusing to know what magical spell you're even using, and this ties back into just the awful localization of this. If you don't have the manual and you just pick this thing up as a loose cartridge, or you download the ROM and you don't look up what a lot of these items are, you're never going to know. And you're not going to know what a lot of these spells do either. There's no descriptions given to you. You're just kind of left to assume what certain things are. At least fire, bolt, and freeze kind of tell you what they're doing. But when it just says DFTP, I'm not sure what the hell that's supposed to be. So I click on it, it kills my guy and gives his health points to the rest of my party. I don't know why that's a spell. I can't think of any reason why I would want to do that, but that's a spell in the game. And there's a lot of magic in the game, and a lot of it is frickin' worthless, especially if you haven't been leveling it up. And then even if you do level it up, it's still pretty frickin' worthless, because spells are just weirdly underpowered at certain points. Even when you do get them to where they should be, or at least your ability in that specific magic should be, you still have to deal with a bunch of underpowered spells. And it's just really frustrating at times. Especially since a lot of the enemies, especially in the end game, are ridiculously overpowered. And you compare that with the 2 end bosses that are, at least in my opinion, pushovers once you figure out how to actually do it. You can beat the 2 end bosses pretty easily. They're really not that hard. You just need your main character to cast one spell, and then the rest of your party are on support, because they're going to be just worthless to you unless they're healing you or casting spells to try to mitigate the damage that you're going to be taking. However, the enemies leading up to that are all harder than the actual bosses that you're going to be fighting. They just take less time to defeat, but they're still a lot harder than the actual final bosses. It is just way too difficult to do anything in this. It shouldn't be that hard to go through this game, but it just really is because of all the things that are kneecapping you along the way. Like not having magic points, having a bunch of spells that are largely worthless, even though they're supposed to be your major form of attack, and then having to just grind to get to a level to where you can actually stand up to anything. It's a very frustrating game to play, and a lot of the enemies being overpowered doesn't help, and your spells and weapons being underpowered is just annoying. It's a very frustrating game. I know I said a lot of bad things about Paladin's Quest. There are some good things in it. Like, I do like the story, even though it gets pretty convoluted at the end. I do like the graphics. I think they're great. I think, just going through the overworld, it looks awesome. I like the way the spells look for the most part. I like the way the enemies look. I think they look really cool and very different from a lot of the other stuff in 1992. However, just the magic system I think is really messed up. Not having magic points and just relying on your character's health points was really stupid. I don't understand what that whole thing was about, especially when magic is your major weapon in this game, and at least in the final battle, you spend most of your time trying to keep your main character alive because he's the only one that's even worth a damn. The others are just there. You have one character with the Giga Bottle, which is supposed to be your main medicine. Then she can heal your entire party, and that's great. The other two exist, and they kind of do stuff to keep you alive, or at least I think they're keeping you alive by casting Magic Wall and, I don't know, defense down, that sort of thing. I'm hoping that those were magic buffs that would actually work on me, but it really didn't feel like it when I was fighting. It's just, ugh. So yeah, the stupid magic system, the overpowered enemies, and just the horrendous user interface for this, those were just the three biggest issues that I had with it, and they kind of kneecapped and hamstrung my way through this whole thing, as I was really trying to enjoy this because I wanted to beat the game. It had been a game I'd been trying to just figure out and get into for a very long time. And I figured, you know what, I'll sit down, I'll power through it. I've got the internet now, so it can explain a lot of the things that I did not know when I was a kid. At least when I started playing it, I realized, hey, the game is leading you through it pretty well. It's telling you exactly where you need to go, who you need to talk to. It's telling you what you need to do for the most part. But yeah, there's just a lot in here where I'm like, this is just not something I would ever want to go back and play again. When I beat it, I didn't really feel like a sense of accomplishment. It was just more of a relief, like, oh, thank God that's over. And I was rewarded appropriately with just nothing all that impressive at the end. It just, lets you go through, talk to the mercenaries that you had picked up along the way, talk to some of the major characters, or at least the characters that have names, and then it rolls the credits and it shows you all the cutscenes that you've already seen before. And then the game just kind of stops. And that was just how I felt with it. It was like, okay, thank God it's over. Now I never have to go back to Paladin's Quest again. I'm sure other people have games like this as well, where they've wanted to beat it and they wanted to move on, and just see what happens, or maybe you played it like 20, 30 years ago and now you want to beat it and see what was going on with it. That was Paladin's Quest for me, and now that I've done it, I'm just kind of glad it's over. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you all later.